Since 2010, when the coalition government got into power, there's been a programme of austerity and cuts across the country, and over 500,000 public sector workers have lost their jobs because of that. And at the same time, for this year, they've actually spent somewhere in the region between £4 and £6 billion of public money with companies like G4S and Serco in the private sector to take over public services. And myself and the union branch that I'm chair of don't agree with that. At our last meeting, we passed a resolution which was unanimously agreed at the meeting, calling on the City Council to suspend G4S from any consideration of tendering for services on the basis of their outrageous, appalling record around the world of human rights abuse. And what we want the council to do is to conduct a review before they even consider asking G4S to take on any more services. And what we would like to see as a branch, we would like to see the services that are there to be kept in-house. I mean, again, one of the other issues is, people are struggling more and more and more, and you've got companies like G4S and Serco and a number of other companies as well, who don't actually. I mean, I think they made something like £270 million profit, but they didn't actually pay any tax in this country. They got a tax credit of -8 million pounds, so they just seem to be able to operate in any way that they want to. And even now, where they're under review from the government on various services, the ministers that are dealing with it are saying, "Oh, it's all right, everything's going to be all right." I mean, other people who've been involved in fraud, the same conditions don't apply.
Oh, G4S has been accused legitimately of so many crimes against migrants and asylum seekers in immigration centers, and especially when they are enforcing the forcible deportation on migrants. So it's not just that they just abuse them. There are so much documentation around that. We have well over 773 complaints against them, and out of that 773 complaints, nearly 48 of them are of assault to migrants or people that they want to deport. So I think that is quite abusive. That's why I'm against it. Jimmy Mbenga is a very popular case of an example of an asylum seeker, a migrant that was being forcibly returned to his country in 2010. And what happened? He was beaten up by the guards of G4S just because he said he was not ready to go back home because of the fear of what he would face when he went back home. So he was beaten up. He was even screaming and saying that he was not able to breathe. They ignored all that and still took him under force. And he ended up dying on the plane. So it's a case that is everywhere, and I'm very happy that the judge did pass this judgment. There's a judgment against it, that he was unlawfully killed by the guards of the G4S, because there's so much of that is being done by G4S that is never come into the open. I will be advising them to be speaking to their MPs, write a letter to their MPs. Equally, they should go to the council, speak to their councillors, write a letter to their councillors to show how much they don't want this to happen anymore. And then we have the Stop G4S team, the campaign team, that they can equally contact. Yeah, I think that's the best way forward.
G4S is one of the main companies that we're campaigning against to boycott, because G4S is, first of all, a British-Danish security company, and it's one of the main security companies operating in Israel through its subsidiary G4S Israel Hashmira. G4S, research has shown that G4S is involved in many facets of the Israel occupation, and they are profiting from the suffering of the Palestinian people. They're involved in providing equipment, facilities and services to prisons, both in the West Bank and Israel, which incarcerate Palestinian political prisoners. Many of those are children. They're also involved in providing security to businesses within the illegal settlements within the West Bank. They're involved in providing equipment and maintenance of services on the checkpoints within the West Bank, and they provide scanning equipment as part of the checkpoints of the illegal apartheid wall. The settlements and the apartheid wall have been deemed as illegal by the International Courts of Justice. So they're very involved in illegal activities according to international law. They also provide services to the police headquarters within the West Bank, and the transfer of prisoners from the West Bank to Israel is totally illegal, and they're absolutely implicit and complicit within this activity. Well, first of all, they can refuse to give G4S any contracts within this country, and they legally can do this through the public regulations of 2006, which say that any company can be excluded from contracts if they've committed grave misconduct. And G4S, it has been shown absolutely that this is what they do within Israel. So it's a very important proof that people can use legally to exclude them from contracts.